Level 80, hitting the books. Kryl is intent on uncovering the reason behind the forum's inexplicable behavior. An unsettling change has come over Charlian, but together we will divine the underlying cause for the forum's callousness. As I mentioned before, however, questioning the counselors directly is a fruitless endeavor. They seem to have already come to a consensus as to what and how little they are willing to divulge. This is why I began scouring Charlian's archive of historical records for any hint of a connection to the final days. Suffice it to say that progress has been slow. There are only so many dusty pages one can skim in a day, but now that I have this band of willing reinforcements, the search should proceed all the swifter. Let us reconvene outside Numenon, shall we? To the annex to the right, you'll find the archives on the western edge of the woods. Numenon. I have that title. You get from Heaven's Award relics, animal weapons. In the wrong spot. Oh, there, that's the other quest. Okay. Wajoo. So this is our main city, then. Because we can't ride our mount. My directions were easy enough to follow, I hope. In any case, you stand now before the doors of Numenon, Charlian's grandest collection of books and tomes. This building is actually only an entrance, and one of many at that, but the archives of Numenon extend deep beneath the surface like the roots of a tree. The vast halls of the Great Gooba Library pale in comparison to Numenon's endless maze of subterranean chambers. Any citizen of Charlian is free to enter and peruse its shelves. Well, most of its shelves, only Archons are afforded access to certain restricted vaults. I've dispatched Stola and Raha to investigate those. Meanwhile, Alize and Alphanod will help me continue my search through the stacks open to the general public. Your status presents more of a problem. As a non-citizen, you are only permitted to browse the first floor here at the entrance. Even so, there should be a number of books which touch upon Charlian history or forum policy. Your task will be to find and study the relevant publications. I promise you a working knowledge of those subjects will make it far easier to spot the sort of clues we're looking for. Let us be about it, shall we? Told the others to meet us at the stone benches over there once they found some promising tomes. Happy reading. Ooh, pretty. Brightly colored books. Story of Charlian. Long, long ago, on an island in the northern sea, there lived a Rogadan man by the name of Nirnkref. Nirnkref was a student of astrology, and he divined that a flood of terrifying proportions would soon sweep over the lands of Eorzea. So it was that he built a gigantic ship, assembled a crew, and set sail for that imperiled realm. The flood arrived as foretold, and to their horror, the strangely churning waters drove the people towards the ocean. It was there, however, that Nirnkref's crew hauled up aboard his ark. The danger had not passed. A towering wave approached, threatening to smash the vessel to pieces. With only moments to spare, Nirnkref wove a mighty spell of teleportation and shifted the entire ship to safety atop Abalathia's spine. Refugees from the surrounding regions huddled there alongside them, but it was not long before disputes over the dwindling supply of food led to violence and bloodshed. Saddened by the sight, Nirnkref gathered to him his crew and his grateful passengers and abandoned the ark to those reddened peaks. They journeyed to the coast where they built a new ship, intent upon returning to the northern seas. Landed on the beach of an island and settled upon that very spot. That settlement prospered and grew, and in time it became the city of Charlian we live in to this day. Okay. Red-covered book. Roads of Old, the Colony. Read the book. Many years ago, on the banks of the Thaliak and the Dravanian hinterlands, the Charlian colony once thrived. This settlement was originally established as a mere outpost to study the ethereal sea in the year 1311 of the 6th Astral Era. Scholars dispatched to Eorzea found the facilities wanting, and their demands encouraged a gradual expansion in structures and services. Rumors spread of a growing community of academics. The area was further inundated with Eorzean students hoping to share in the renowned wisdom of the Charlians. 50 years later, the Forum passed a motion to recognize what had become a flourishing town as an official Charlian colony. The Orzean residents took to calling the colony itself Charlian, which led to no small amount of confusion when discussions turned on the subject of motherland. In response, some Charlian inhabitants, if pressed for a name, would simply refer to it as Emporium. Following the Exodus, however, goblins and treasure hunters claimed for themselves a corner of the abandoned colony, gave it yet another name, Idleshire. Following chapters go on to introduce the most prominent features of Idleshire. This book does not appear to contain additional information on the Forum or cover the history of the Charlian motherland in greater detail. Leatherbound Tome. Head on spine reads A Voice of Growing City. The years which followed the founding of Charlian, civic policy and other matters of import were decided at the Ecclesia, a public forum at which every citizen was eligible to speak. The city population grew, however, this format became increasingly impractical. The larger number of participants gave rise to ever longer debates, resulting in significant delays of vital resolutions. Various measures were introduced in an attempt to curtail protracted discussions, but in the year 201 of the 6th Astral Era, it was ultimately decreed that Charlian would transition to a new form of governance. The nation would now be led by a body of 99 members, citizens chosen from amongst their peers by means of a nationwide vote. This was the Forum, as we know it today, conceived and created. Blue-covered book. Introduction to the Heavens. You ever gazed at the skies above and contemplated the mysteries contained therein? I speak not of shifting cloud patterns, but of the vastness beyond, of the sun and the twinkling tapestry of the night. Some think the dome above us to be a finite space, yet amongst the leading thinkers of our age, one scholar's depiction of a boundless sea of stars has firmly taken root. As this heavenly sea remains an unreachable, unknowable destination, there are few indeed who can explain in satisfactory detail why our own star is believed to revolve around the sun. The technologies of Alec who came closest to understanding the laws which govern that starry abyss. It was they who launched Dalamud and sought to expand beyond our earthbound existence. Having read of their ancient ambitions, I wonder, has your interest in this field of study waxed or waned? But if I were to tell you that the eternal constellations were arranged differently in the distant past, their positions continue to shift almost imperceptibly but measurably as we journey into the future. Would it shock you to learn that the stars drift further and further apart and may indeed do so forever? Are you eager to learn more? Book goes on the wrong subject. Search for works which contain details on the Forum. I mentioned the history of Charlian. Oh, useful info, I guess. Well-worn manual. Forever 20 Summers. My beloved seekers of knowledge, have you ever put learning before your health and neglected to feed and rest your body as you should? I too once engaged in such foolish practices, but one night engrossed in philosophical study, I had an epiphany. For all the world's mysteries that drive us to reckless abandon, we have so very few years of life in which to achieve our goals. Thus do I share with you this mantra: I am forever 20 summers young. The number itself is unimportant. You could be 19 or 23 or 40. Whatever age you are when you discover this manual, let that be the age you aspire to remain. Mindful, healthy living, you will extend you the time available to spend upon your chosen research. Another day, another moon, another summer to grasp the greater truths you pursue. Pages that follow, we will explore the secrets of maintaining one's physical condition from a biological, ethereological, and arcane viewpoint. This book is on the wrong subject. Search for works which contain details on the Forum or mention the history of Charlian. Gotta be close to the end, right? Couldn't be too many more spots. Time-worn tome. Stewards of Wisdom. During the chaos of the Sixth Umbral Calamity, Archon Yumcraft, founder of the Charlian, bore witness to the madness and savagery of men brought to the brink of despair. Upon raising a settlement on an island in the northern empty, he instructed his people thus: renounce the ways of war and pursue enlightenment through knowledge and reason. Charlians took to heart the words of their savior and thenceforth serve as stewards of wisdom. On a foundation of accumulated learning, they built a homeland unlike any other, a nation born from strength of minds rather than strength of arms. Knowledge of economics came shrewd trading. With knowledge of agriculture came bountiful crops. Engineering brought wells and sewers, ending squabbles over water. Both of expertise could be bartered for wealth and coin, and more their wisdom spread throughout the world, the more mankind as a whole would thrive. So it was that no matter the trials and tribulations of the age, the citizens of Charlian would live by their founders' teachings, for the sake of a better tomorrow, for the sake of a brighter star. They would eschew the tools of war, and with knowledge deliver the world. You have gained a fundamental understanding of Charlian history and the foundation of the Forum. Head outside to the rendezvous point and await your companions. Yay! First order of business on your new adventure. Read. Sorry, were you waiting long? I'm going to make sure I borrowed at least a few promising volumes. Alpha Note and Cryo should also be along shortly. It was delayed in similar fashion. As far as I could see, no titles in the Archon stacks mentioned the final day specifically, so we have no choice but to start with tangentially relevant tomes, if there are even that. At present, the plan is to skim through as quickly as we dare and to share our discoveries as we make them. It would have been nice to invite everyone to the estate, plenty of comfortable places to read, and a ready supply of hot tea. I was always quite fond of reading outside, but it's not about the little pleasures, is it? You miss your home. It's been difficult. After our arrival, we managed to speak with one of the family servants and ask how things were. Seems our dear father has instructed the staff that even if Alpha Nod and I were to return to Charlene, we were not to be allowed across the threshold. Harsh measure indeed. I hope that our efforts to understand his position and that of the Forum will perhaps lead to reconciliation. We'll mend this rift one day, I'm certain of it. What of you, Gra? Have you been to visit your family, or do they not live here in the city? Oh, well, my situation is also somewhat complicated. I was raised in Charlene, yes, but I was born rather further away. In the southern reaches of Ilsabard. In fact, for generations my people have dwelt in Corvos, a coastal region opposite the island of Thavnair. Elegans founded a city in that fertile land, and by ship brought in the subjugated tribes of the Mikote to serve as laborers. Of course, the massive earthquakes of the Fourth Umbral Calamity brought an end to the Empire's reign, and when the Fifth Calamity froze the seas solid, many of the tribes still living in Corvos braved the journey back to Eorzea. My ancestors, however, chose to remain in that they might prevent the remnants of Allegan technology from being misused. Isn't Corvos under Garlean rule? For the past 50 years, yes, some semblance of local culture remains, as is the case for most imperial provinces, but Garlemald renamed the region Locus Amanus. When I was a boy, a nearby town came under the jurisdiction of an illustrious imperial family, the nobles of House Darnus. House Darnus demonstrated a singular interest in Allegan civilization, and so my tribe was forced to consider a plan of action. Some time already, voices had been raised in favor of abandoning our ancient customs. After all, the Allegan eye no longer passed to our eldest children as reliably as it once had. Fear of discovery eventually tipped the scales, and the decision was made to bury our ties to the knowledge and traditions of Alley. The last child born with the Allegan eye, I was given over to the custody of the Friends of the Students of Baldazian, who had me registered as a Charlean citizen. Never even considered. Forgive me, it was an unkind question. Even Thancred was taken in by Archon Louis Soir, was he not? Stories of adopted waifs and rescued orphans are more common among Charleans than you might think. Yet regardless of our origins, we are all provided with an equal opportunity to learn, and with sufficient perspicacity, we outsiders can even earn the vaunted title of Archon. This is exactly why I have such love for this country, and why I wish to remain a nation of which its citizens can be proud of. Hear, hear, another good reason to get to the bottom of the Forum's stubbornness, aside from the trifling matter of our impending doom. Excuse us while we try to make some headway into these books. More companies should be arriving at any moment now. We've returned with our selection. Though I must say the pickings were quite slim indeed. Mistress Crow has already flicked through every history book devoted to the disasters, and more than a few which barely made mention of them. Such we will be looking into research papers on the Umbral Calamities, as well as articles written by prominent Forum members. Perhaps their knowledge of the final days come from an unexpected source. Speaking of which, might I ask you a few questions related to the final days? I'm the only one here who didn't witness the events of Amarot firsthand, and I fear I may be overlooking critical details. My thanks. Now where to begin? First things first, what kind of phenomenon did the ancients encounter as the final days drew nigh? Complete destabilization of creation magics. Primals of unrivaled power were summoned from the ether. The worst kind of phenomenon you can imagine. Well, that certainly is an accurate, if somewhat ambiguous impression. To expound upon that explanation, the unfolding catastrophe wrought havoc on all manner of life. The chaos extended to the ancients themselves, causing their powers of creation to spiral out of control. Fear and despair manifested in terrible, tangible fashion. Meteors raining from the sky, fire erupting from the ground, indescribable abominations prowling the streets. More or less aligns with my understanding. If only the arts of creation had survived until the present day, we might have had something substantial to analyze. Best of our knowledge, however, those techniques were not preserved or passed on. Stoller surmises that the closest known magic is that of the summoning rituals promulgated by the Asians. Was there aught else of note which heralded the approach of the final days? The entire star was engulfed by disaster all at once. It began with the keening sound from the land itself. Alphanard, you can answer this one. Ah, yes, the Emeraldines spoke of it, didn't they? We never did hear this sound ourselves, of course, thrust as we were into the midst of the madness. It seems that each and every one of the catastrophes was preceded by this ominous noise. Eventually it resounded all across the star, and not even Emerald was spared. The ground was crying out, you say, to be considered the harbinger of doom. It must have been quite distinctive, probably quite loud. I'll have to speak with one of the Numenon's mammoths and ask after any books which make mention of such a sound. Last but not least, would you describe how the ancients sought to quell this unprecedented calamity? What definitive action did they take? They summoned Zodiark. They knocked Alamut from the sky. They summoned Eidolon. They summoned Zodiark. Yes, with Elidibus serving as his heart, so many gave themselves in sacrifice to bring him into being. I do not know exactly how Zodiark brought salvation to the star, only that his godlike will were the laws of nature set aright. And once the balance was redressed, the ancients offered up a further sacrifice to heal the ravages of the final days. Life sprouted anew, and it was these fledgling souls they intended to render unto Zodiark, a trade that would have allowed them to resurrect the shades of loved ones absorbed by the primal. Or might have, had Venat and her followers not manifested their opposition in the form of Heidel. Thank you, both of you, for the detailed review. I feel much more confident now that in my understanding of events. With all that freshly in mind, it does make me wonder what the Telophoroi truly mean when they speak of bringing back the final days. We've seen what they're doing with those towers of theirs, is forcing people to summon primals kind of a catalyst. They attempting to mirror the conditions caused by the unstable creation magics? Or are they simply using the final days as a figure of speech, a convenient metaphor for the scale of destruction they plan to unleash? This is all just pointless conjecture at this stage. Let us return to our attention to the forum, shall we? We keep an eye out for Stola, but this is time we began studying these research papers. I'm the last, am I? Well, my extended search of the Archon stacks produced one or two possibly useful books, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. You recall Urianger learned of the source's reflections from the Garen oracles. For its potential to cause panic and confusion, that tome was deemed apocrypha and sealed away in the Great Google Library. It's even less likely that knowledge of the unsundered world, not to mention the horrors of the final days, would be left sitting on a shelf for any curious scholar to find. Stands reason, then, that my colleagues, be they archons or counselors, should perforce be largely ignorant of the subject. Yet when you confronted Master Fauchenal with knowledge of the Telophoroi and their machinations, he scoffed at the suggestion that they posed a threat. He seemed adamant that the Forum would know if the final days were truly upon us. Only supports the conclusion that whatever privileged wisdom is guiding the forum's behavior is being kept secret from the rest of the nation. Not that I mean to excuse myself from reading duty, whether they contain mention of the final days or no, these books could yet hold something of value. You weren't thinking of leaving, were you? There's plenty of work for everyone. I am the warrior of reading. You labor what feels like an age as Stola research assistant. Oh dear, you look exhausted, but what about your studies? Were you able to find any books on the subjects I mentioned? Then the day was well spent. Should you wish to read them again, a mammoth at the reference desk will point you in the right direction. For the moment, though, I suggest you take well-deserved rest. We might be occupied with our research for quite some time. Level 80, hitting the books, complete. Level 80, seat at the last stand. Alizé appears in desperate need of a study break. Ready for a tea break? I know I am. Honestly, my neck and shoulders are going to calcify if I don't stretch my legs and walk around a bit. You know the last stand down in the harbor, don't you? Come and meet me near the outside tables and I'll treat you to their coffee. It's quite good. We attune to this either, right? Recall. Okay, that should be all of them, huh? You've attuned yourself to all the Ethernet shards in Old Charlotte. One. As busy as ever, I see. How very Charlian that no one other gourmet cafe has sprung up to compete for customers. Actually, this crowd gives me an idea. Before we place an order, why don't we ask a few questions and gauge the mood of the city? I'm interested to hear what the average citizen has to say about the Talaferoi. We might even learn something new. Worth a try, don't you think? Alizé is now accompanying you. Keep her at your side in order to proceed with quest objectives. You can leave Alizé behind by entering a different area by speaking with her and selecting the option to part ways. If you wish to have Alizé accompany you again, return and speak with her at the original location. What is it? Can a man not enjoy a moment of private respite? If you're looking to share a table, then I respectfully request that you look elsewhere. Misunderstand, sir. We were simply wondering if you knew of the Talaferoi. These enemies of peace have promised an end to all we hold dear, and... Wait, you're that House Levier girl, aren't you? This woman with you is obviously a foreigner. I've heard you were disowned for helping outsiders indulge their barbaric whims, and here you are giving truth to the rumor. I thank you to leave me be. I've naught to say to the likes of you. Well, I must apologize. 'Twas foolish of me to expect an ounce of civility from one so enlightened. Come. He was pleasant. Yes, I don't believe I've had the pleasure. Pray excuse the interruption, but we were hoping you might share your thoughts on the Talaferoi and their unconscionable plans. My goodness, if it isn't the young Miss Levier. Apologies, but I work in the offices of the Forum, and if word reached Master Fortunault that I was helping you... I see, we're sorry to have bothered you. Welcome, madam. What can I offer you today? Wait, is that Mistress Alizé I see there? My word, how long has it been? Far too long. Meet Dickon, the owner of the Last Stand. I used to frequent his cafe on occasion, in between lessons at the studium. Seems like an age ago now. I remember hearing that you and Master Alphinaud had set sail for Eorzea, but then you never came back. Lately there's been gossip about your father disowning the pair of you. Everything all right at home? It's complicated, and I hadn't expected complete strangers to be so familiar with our situation quite so quickly. Everyone has an opinion, it seems. Well, it is, House Levier. No matter how discreet Master Fortunal may have been, news of your family's doings never stays secret for long. Things being what they are, what brings you back to the city now, of all times? We have questions, and only Charlian has the answers. Tell me, Master Dickon, have you heard anything about the apocalypse called the Final Days? What, like the end of the world? Nothing like that, I'm afraid, and that's what you're here to find, information on this apocalypse? Yes, whatever we can learn. Unfortunately, your patrons appear to be unwilling to speak with me. I wish there was more I could do to help. Maybe there is. You're a visitor, Charlian, aren't you? And few will know your face. We should be able to pass you off as a server with none the wiser. We just finished preparing a few orders. Strike up some friendly conversation while you're setting down the food, and you might just get the answers you're looking for. Not a bad idea, I hate to ask, but what do you think? That's the spirit. Pay attention now, and I'll explain where each of these dishes needs to go. Tea set is for the chatty group sitting by the water's edge. The omelet is for one of our regulars, a Highlander by the name of Gisela. She's sitting at an outside table with a friend of hers. Behind them, you should see a Makote gentleman. He ordered the oven-baked lobster. Got all of that? If you're not sure, just ask and I'll explain again. Good luck. We are the waitress of light. Oh, my tea set. Lovely, thank you. Talafa who? I'm sorry, I've never heard of them or their final days. My friends and I are somewhat uninformed when it comes to current events. Now, if you wanted to hear about ritual arcane practices of the 6th Astral Era, common or esoteric, then I'd be happy to talk your ear off. Gods above, I'm starving. I've never known the service to be this slow. Ah, finally, 2, 4, 6, 8. Let's dig in. No time to waste. What? The Talafaroy? Ah, yes, I remember seeing the name in the latest Gazette. That and some grand claim about the end of days. Same old senseless warmongering. When will all these fools grow tired of spilling each other's blood? Let's stay out of it. I say the Forum made the right choice, and I fully support our decision to remain neutral. Filthy neutrals. At last, the oven-baked lobster is mine. You have no idea how long I've scrimped and saved and suffered to afford this heavenly dish. Final days? This is the first I've heard of it. Although that would explain why my friend has been rushed off his feet. Must be a busy time to be a gleaner. You don't know what a gleaner is? They're collectors of a sort. Travel the world procuring things that we haven't got here in Charlian. Priceless books, unusual live specimens, and so forth. The name for those folk who trail after the reapers in the fields, picking up every grain which was missed. Aye, by all accounts, gleaning is the most meticulous and demanding profession. These Talafaroy make good on their audacious threats, then many uncatalogued rarities could be lost forever. Why else would the gleaners be buzzing about in such a frenzy? Watch the harbor and you'll see what I mean. They're carting loads in from the docks all day. It's never been this hectic before, not like this. Any trouble with the customers? Were you able to get anyone talking? Interesting. They seem unaware of the final days, aside from whatever vague news the gazettes are printing. Even Dickon had nothing to offer, and he's the best source of gossip in the city. If the Forum does have secret knowledge, and they've done an impressive job of ensuring no one whispers it in the wrong ear. In any case, thank you for playing the part so well. Here, that cup of coffee I promised. Let's enjoy our drink somewhere else, shall we? Maybe behind the peristyle, away from the gossips and their wagging tongues. Yes, this should do nicely, out of the wind and out of sight.
When our father disowned us, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It wasn't until much later that his words began to sink in, that I began to feel the weight of what it meant. Do you remember when the decision was made to come to Charlian? Graham said that the Forum was determined to keep us in the dark, and that Father's venomous performance was part of that strategy, to keep us at arm's length. Perhaps it was. Father argued with Grandfather on many occasions, but never with such dismissive contempt. And when he demanded what justifies the sacrifices we make in war, I honestly didn't know what to say. Neither did Alpha know, I know, but never for one moment did I believe we had made the wrong choice. So all I could do was fume silently. It was only afterwards that I realized how childish I had been, how being stubborn and self-righteous must run in the family. If I could have just mustered a civil response, then things might have turned out differently. They must
They're
be
gonna summon
ferrying
a
goods to
prime.
Labyrinthos.
They're hauling in crystals. They're gonna summon a primal, aren't they?
A vast complex beneath the island. Charlian is famous for archiving knowledge from around the world. Well, that knowledge is not preserved exclusively in dusty tomes and desiccated samples. Our living library, comprised of all manner of flora and fauna, is housed and studied within that underground facility. Still, that did seem to be an unusually large shipment. When I lived here, it was rare to even see such cargo transported by boat. Wait, didn't you hear something in the last stand about the gleaners coming and going more than usual? Well, I think they're the ones we saw manning those boats. And gleaners answer to the Forum. If the appearance of the Telophoroi prompted this sudden burst of activity, then Labyrinthos may hold a clue as to what the Forum is planning.
Level 80, a seat at the last stand. Complete. Level 80, a labyrinthine descent. Alizé is excited to share your revelations. We should tell the others what we've learned about the Gleaners. Go on ahead to Numenon and I'll join you in a moment. Master Dickon will want his cups back. Dickon. Oh. Welcome back. Been for a walk and cleared your head, have you? Not exactly. We did some impromptu investigating and turned up information on the Gleaners. Makes sense. The Gleaners take their requests directly from the institutions and bureaucrats, but as you say, they ultimately answer to the Forum. Sudden and significant increase in Gleaner traffic and in cargo, it certainly gives the impression of an overarching plan being put into motion. Let us see what theory we can build from the facts. As Stola observed earlier, Numenon's archives appear to contain no information concerning the final days. Coupled with what Zilly and Alizé learned at the last stand, we can be reasonably assured that most Sharlayans know nothing of that particular period of ancient history. Yet my father and his colleagues are not only familiar with the final days, but are also somehow certain that the destruction being perpetrated by the Talaf Roy is wholly unlike these apocalyptic events. Moreover, the Forum claims to be so occupied by a duty of such pressing importance that they saw fit to unanimously deny Eorzea's request for aid. Now the Gleaners, official agents of the state, have been mobilized on an unprecedented scale. Do not think it is a stretch to conclude that the Gleaners' recent activities are in service to the Forum's secretive ends. In which case, our next course of action seems obvious. We visit Labyrinthos and assess the situation for ourselves. If we're lucky, the Gleaners will be far more receptive to our questions. Fine idea. What should we expect down there? Anything would be better than burying my head in another dusty book. I understand not everyone is the studious type. Consider this a welcome change of pace, then. As for myself, there are a few more subjects I should like to research. I may join you later, but feel free to leave behind your borrowed books and be on your way. I'll see to it that each is returned to its proper place. That would be a great help. Thank you, Raha. Let's head down the stairs over there and I'll show you where the entrance is. Ready? Labyrinthos is not too far from here, but you may find the path a bit disorienting. I'll take the lead, so stay close. Follow Alizé and try not to fall behind. Alizé sets off at a brisk walk. I wouldn't exactly call that a brisk walk. How we run. Try to keep up. There we go. Keep to the path. Straight ahead. Cross this bridge. Up here. Rostra, not far now. Here we are, through this door and down the stairs. You did remember to attune to the shard back there, didn't you? It will make your life much easier if you need to come back in a hurry. Otherwise, we should keep moving. Okay. Hall of Artifice. Kabuki. We're all here now, yes? I've taken the liberty of securing permission for our group's descent. Right, everyone onto the lift and down we go.
Deep beneath the scholar's city shines a false sun within a fabricated sky. In any age exist those who consider the floor an extension of their bookshelves, and this vault's architects surely belonged to that special breed. If the stack grows too high, start a new one. If no room remains, then make more rooms. A simple solution at first, and then bit by bit, a profound transformation. Knowledge, buried beneath knowledge, a growing, creeping labyrinth from which there is no escape.
Northern empty, labyrinthos.
Not what you expected. I must admit, the artifice is very convincing. But I assure you that we are beneath Sharlayan itself. The breeze you feel, the flowing waters you hear, all created by the hand of man.
The island is volcanic, you see, and once upon a time this great hollow must have been a reservoir for magma. It was discovered some 400 years ago, at which point it was repurposed as a storage facility for scrolls and samples and such. Renovations have continued, with nigh on no interruption to this day, with the lower levels still undergoing expansion.
Aren't those people gleaners?
Aye, judging by their dress. They are said to work alone as a rule, but 'twould seem that rule is being enthusiastically broken today. It may be as you suspected, that they are engaged in a task apart from the norm.
Let's spread out and get some answers then.
Yeah.
Ugh. Did you call to me just now? No. How odd. I must be a bit dizzy from the descent.
Her echo.
I'll be fine, I'm sure.
Can't she like talk
Let's
to
get
animals
work,
and stuff?
shall we?
Whole new area. All been. You want to know what I'm doing? Hauling books and ore and fauna, and if it needs hauling, I'll haul it. Every decade or so, they take stock in labyrinthos, you know, sort and tidy up the inventory. Never seen an operation like this before, though. We just did one a few summers ago, even. Then, with no warning at all, this message dropped in our laps. Orders from on high. Damned if I know the reason. Could be that they're changing the layout, eh? Preparing for the next big expansion. Change what Dobbin has taught you about taking stock in labyrinthos. Let me think. Rhea Siege should be item 1058, Cumin Seeds 1059, Snurble Berry 1060, or were they 1061? My head feels like it's stuffed with Moko grass. Why more loads? take out than carry in. Why do all of this at once and risk mixing it up? What if someone mistakes the Kurthan carrots for Gurabanian carrots? What then? Your exchange with Tiva's taught you about large shipments coming in and out of Labyrinthos. You're here to help or give me more headaches because you don't have the look of a gleaner, and I'm in no mood for idle chatter. One of my colleagues was so exhausted he took a tumble and crashed into a pile of crates. Now I have a pack of marmots running loose. Exchange with Ironville has taught you about exhausted gleaners. Sounds like grunt work to me. Any luck? What tales did the gleaners have to tell? This grand operation began without warning, and for every item they bring in, they're sending more inventory somewhere else. That would explain the haggard faces I've been seeing. We were right, the Forum is definitely up to something, and if they're turning Labyrinthos upside down in the process... Level 80, a labyrinthine descent. Complete. New Ethernet destination is now accessible. Level 80, glorified rat catcher. Trial appears lost in thought. It would do well to learn more of what specifically the Gleaners are being tasked to do, as well as who has tasked them to do it. Your game, I have an idea. Didn't one of the Gleaners you questioned say something about escaped marmots? Perhaps if you were to help him capture said creatures, he might be inclined towards a more friendly and enlightening conversation. In the meantime, I will turn my charms upon this Gleaner here. We can compare notes afterwards. Happy hunting. You wish to help me find the marmots? I have nothing suitable to pay you for your services, but if you're offering out of the goodness of your heart, I'd welcome the assistance. Name is Aaronville, my friend, specialist in the collection of live specimens. That said, the capture of these Nagyan marmots is a trial I've no desire to repeat. Grizzled mice, they call them. For mercy, there are no other marmot species on this tier at present, so there should be no mistaking our little fugitives. If you happen to catch any, stuff them in this sack. Gently, of course. Where to begin, you wonder? I've not seen any scampering around here, so we'll need to widen our search into the surrounding forest. Be on your guard. There are beasts out there that won't hesitate to prey on a marmot, or you. I'll search the trees to the west. The eastern part of the forest is all yours. Good luck. Is it Aaron or Erin? I don't suppose it matters. Hornvale. Level 80 troll. Yeah. Chirp, squeak. Barely have you readied the sack when the grizzled mouse scampers off into the underbrush. I hate you, Mises, to pieces. Yeah. Squeak. Rat sack. Rodent nimbly evades your grasp before once more disappearing into the trees. Go up further. Roll. Like a reskin goo boo. There we go. Sure. Squeak, squeak. More prepared for its speed this time, you succeed in closing the sack over your elusive quarry. Yep, glorified rat catcher is the right title. Few aetherites here, so it's a pretty sizable area. How did you fare? I tracked down 3 of the pack, which leaves 1 unaccounted for. Ah, there's the odd marmot out. Wait here a moment while I put our friends in a holding cage. Thankfully, the marmots seem to be unharmed. They've held up well in isolation, but it's much too soon to release them into the habitat. It's a good thing we were able to recapture them so swiftly. You have my thanks. Who tasked you to capture them in the first place? What will you do with the marmots now? By the authority in charge of Labyrinthos, now and in perpetuity, the same officials who've had us working day and night of late, the honorable members of the Forum, who else? Suitable for consumption and easy to breed, those were the 2 conditions I was given for the stock I was instructed to procure. I don't know what the Forum has planned for these creatures, but at the very least I doubt they'll be served for dinner today or tomorrow. There you are. Is this the gleaner you mentioned, the one who was looking for lost marmots? Interesting company you keep, friend. Who are you folk, anyway? I am Kryl of the Students of Baldesion. These others are my associates. Truth be told, the Forum's decisions of late have not sat entirely well with us. That is why we made the descent into Labyrinthos. We hope that by seeing these decisions put into action, we might more fully understand their reasoning. Wise and practical, never hurts to try and gain a broader perspective, does it? Anyway, duty calls. Other animals to capture and enclosures to empty. Once again, I'm sorry that I can't offer you more for your services. You learn anything new from your friend there? Not really. So we've confirmed that the order for this ambitious operation did indeed come directly from the Forum. However, the Gleaners have not been informed of its purpose. I'd say that fits with everything we've heard thus far. We also discovered when the operation was begun, the Forum contacted the Gleaners Guild ship and put their people to this great work some 4 days after Talafroy made their chilling declaration. Seasoned travelers, the Gleaners keep abreast of news from every corner of the world out of necessity. Thus, I am inclined to trust that their calendar of events is accurate. Altogether, it gives a distinct impression that this undertaking was a sudden, unexpected development. Yet I find it hard to believe that such a comprehensive restructuring of Labyrinthos and its archives could have been planned in so brief a window. Yeah, this plan was long in the making. They were but awaiting the right time to put it into effect. Telafroy's declaration was what set it all in motion. It seems likely, but let us not leap to conclusions just yet. For the moment, I suggest we conduct a wider investigation of Labyrinthos. The more facilities we visit, the more pieces of the puzzle we stand to find. In that case, how about we head to the Archeon? From there, we can reach the lower... He's getting a hell of an echo, huh? Ryle, what's wrong? Fine, truly, the sudden descent has left me with a bit of a headache, that's all. Nothing that will stop me from soldiering on. Let's be about it, then. At least allow me to take the lead. I'm fairly certain I remember the way to Archeon. We follow that path east through the forest where you were chasing after that mouse, or marmot, was it? Anyway, 'tis the trolls you need to watch out for. The 8th right. Okay. Main lion. Behold, the Archeon, as Numenon serves as Charlane's literary archive, so does this structure house the city's wealth of material depth. The architecture, too, is similar. This building you see is merely the upper entrance, an access point to the vaults carved into the cliffside itself. In those vast rooms are stored countless samples and specimens, as well as detailed records which describe. In a manner of speaking, the Archeon contains a physical history of Charlane's unwavering dedication to the accumulation of knowledge. Level 80, Glorified Ratcatcher. Complete. Level 80, deeper into the maze. Didn't read it. Well, we won't learn anything of value standing out here. Let us proceed into the main building and speak with the custodian. Alphanauta is gazing into the Archeon with an appraising look. There we go. Ooh. Archeon Custodian. Greetings, we are here to peruse the Archeon's vaults. Peruse? You are clearly not gleaners, then. Might I ask your affiliation? You belong to the students of Baldesion, but is that relevant? I was given to believe that the vaults, those open to the public at least, were open to the public. Ordinarily, yes, that would be the case. At present, however, access is restricted. Only persons directly involved in the reorganization efforts are permitted to enter. Not us, then. I suppose we had better move along to another facility. This building has a lift which connects to the middle tier, yes? Might we at least make use of that? That service has also been suspended, I am afraid. For the time being, priority has been given over to the conveyance of inventory. What? So this is as far as we can go? I apologize for the inconvenience. Please come again after our restructuring operation is concluded. By that time, it will be too late, and we were so close to getting answers. We need to rethink our approach. Let us step outside for the moment, shall we? Students of Baldesian. We are at an impasse. As we have no other leads, I should like to pursue this one further. But I doubt that our stone-faced custodian will be swayed by heartfelt pleas. We must seek another means to access the lower levels. It is likely that the people in this area are involved in the restructuring in one way or another. If we were to ingratiate ourselves, they might allow us to accompany them on the lift. Let us ask around. Surely someone is in need of a few strong backs to lighten the load. With whom do I speak? Not like marked on the map. What's that? Take you down on the lift with me? Sorry, but not a chance. I've been up and down all day, and only now have I finally found a spare moment to rest. I did see a gleaner fellow heading out the gate there, though, shouldering a large pack, engaged in some manner of task. Maybe he'll be headed down below after he's done with whatever it is he's doing. Used student. Am I taking the lift? Oh no, we're just students. They won't let us into the Archeon even though we found... Actually, we have no idea what it is we found. There's no record of such a creature anywhere, but it was wandering around Tranquility, so we thought to donate it to the vaults. Squeal, squeal. Oddest little squeal, don't you think? Anyway, I suppose we'll have to take care of it until the Archeon is open again. Oh, it's him. Okay. E. Renville. Quiet, you'll frighten it away. Ah, it's you again. I don't mean to be rude, but I'm in the middle of another task. The cloudkin I need to capture is close, very close. You wish to help me with this too? You spend your time in unusual ways, my friend. Still, 2 hunters are generally better than 1. Very well. The canal here is a common gathering spot for birds of all kinds, but the one I'm after today is the hornbill. Feathers are green and its cry a distinctive call. Single it out and shoot it with this sleeping dart. The effects are short-lived, so I'll lie in wait down by the riverbank to claim our quarry. Be sure to hit the right one. Search your surroundings for the hornbill. You may move the camera as well as zoom in and zoom out. Target the hornbill and use your blowgun with the right trigger/A. The green and calls. Whack, whack. Nope, that's not it. You sedated the wrong bird. Hit it by accident. Is it the red one? I thought it said green feathers. Something further out, maybe? Missed it. There we go. Yay.
A fair shot. Nicely done. Let me truss this one up and I'll make my way over to you.
Give him speaking lines.
There you are. Any new revelations? So you met with that gleaner again, this time to capture a hornbill. I understand catching and bringing in creatures from the outside, but what's the point of chasing after ones already here?
Good point.
Oh, it's a simple thing, really. Occasionally, we remove specimens no longer needed for study, or those we've had difficulty raising. But we can't simply turn them loose. Safely returning such creatures to their native habitats is another facet of a gleaner's duties. But not in this case, I'm afraid. I've been asked to bring the bird below.
The restricted section in the lower levels of Labyrinthos. Open only to a select few researchers handpicked by the Forum. The projects down there are the subject of rumor and hearsay. Forbidden magics. Advanced technologies that can never be allowed to fall into outside hands. Even Archons are not privy to the truth. Those who are, the researchers involved in this secretive work, are not permitted to walk freely in the city, and are instead required to live in isolated quarters.
Raccoon City.
What could a facility subject to such strict security protocols possibly need with a hornbill? An experiment?
Possibly. I wasn't afforded an explanation. But judging by the requisition list given to me and my colleagues, I doubt it's for any kind of advanced research. I'd be more inclined to believe we were making preparations to migrate to the south. Mericidia or thereabouts.
What? Why would you say that?
Much of the flora and fauna we were asked to procure could serve as reliable sources of sustenance. They're comparatively hardy species too, able to endure harsh climates. And among them are specimens known to be effective in improving soil quality and purifying water.
When you put it that way, migration does sound like a reasonable assumption.
That's all it is, though. An assumption. Through our tasks, we gleaners glimpse only bits and pieces of the Forum's plans. Our prime concern is that our requisitions, be they living or otherwise, are properly preserved for the knowledge of future generations. Now, I really must be going. I regret that I cannot reward you as you deserve.
Perhaps you might reward us after a fashion then. It is imperative that we reach the lower levels. And seeing as you are already set to descend with your assigned cargo, mayhap we could accompany you as your assistance.
I'm afraid that won't be possible. Once the animals have been prepared for transport, we send them down separately via the lift. I will, of course, follow after to make my report, but I can hardly pass you off as porters when there's nothing left to carry.
Indeed. Pray forget I said anything.
How do you feel about climbing? If you've strength and the courage to brave it, then there is another way down. This path leads to the 33rd facet, a mine shaft excavated during one of our expansions of Labyrinthos. While I cannot guarantee that the passage is safe to traverse, it should provide access to the medial circuit below.
I never even knew such a place existed. Thank you. This is the perfect solution.
You're quite welcome, but consider yourselves warned. If the going proves too treacherous, you do well to turn back. I bid you good day.
Okay. He's helpful.
Well, turning back is hardly an option, not when we've come this far. Let's go and take a look at this mine shaft.
This must be it, the entrance to the mine shaft. It's faint, but I hear something moving within. Creatures home there by the creatures home there by the researchers, you think. Well, slavering beasts aside, we will need to watch our footing. We should tighten our straps and such before we continue. Level 80, deeper into the maze.